Hey everyone, good morning. My name's Rick Griffith. Today I'm excited to show you my home that my wife, my 3-year-old son, and I moved into just last summer actually. And I want to talk to you today about our 1915 Craftsman and how we decided to completely electrify with solar, battery storage, and shifting to a heat pump all at the same time. And I'm also really excited to talk to you about the different apps I use to control all of those, all of that electrification. Welcome to the back of my house. I'm standing in front of my new M-Phase battery storage system, and I want to talk to you about why I chose to get solar. I grew up in the East Bay, and I grew up running a lot on trails, and I never had to think about smoke. Fast forward 10 or 15 years, I joined the military, moved all over the country, and my wife, my son, and I were living in Virginia and chose to move back to the East Bay. And before we moved back, our friends were sending us videos of how smoky the East Bay was. And the first summer we moved back, it was too smoky to go outside a couple days. And that really made me pretty angry. I thought it was unfair that my son, after COVID, was going to have to shift from masking due to the pandemic to masking outside because it's so smoky. And my wife and I sat down and said, what can we do to try to prevent climate change, make the East Bay cleaner? And we thought, hey, solar's the way to go. So right now, my solar panels provide enough energy to keep the house off the grid during the day. And also, my batteries are great because this is my solar energy at night. When the sun goes down, the batteries can carry the entire load on my house, sometimes all the way through the night. Last night, they lasted until about 6 a.m. And why that's really great is when the sun goes down everywhere over California, all these massive grid-scale solar plants stop producing, so a lot of dirtier plants like coal and natural gas kick on. So if I can do my part to keep the grid clean at that time by not taking a bunch of demand, that's less of a carbon footprint and cleaner air and hopefully less summer fires in California. In addition to keeping the grid clean at night by not picking up a lot of demand, I love my battery system because if there's ever a storm, I know that I'm going to have backup power. So right now, my system is it's a 20 kilowatt system. At all times, I maintain 30% of the battery on backup. And that's really important to me because I have a sump pump downstairs. So say, for example, there's a horrible rainstorm, power goes out, my French drains drain to the sump. So if I shut off all the rest of the power in my house, I know that my sump pump will be able to operate for 2 or 3 days, and I won't have to worry about the basement flooding. Additionally, if there's fires in the area and we lose power in the summer, I can use my battery backup to power the new heat pump HVAC system I have, which has great filters, which will keep the smoke out of my house. So not only does the battery help prevent climate change, but it's also a great backup source for me in the house for some of the essential loads that I have. There are so many ways to remove natural gas in your house. When we bought this house, there was a large natural gas heater that made the back patio nice to stay out at night. We replaced the one natural gas furnace with 2 electric heaters. They work great, controlled by a remote control, and it just makes the backyard super comfortable at night. This is my new heat pump. It's connected to 2 air handlers inside, one up in my attic and one down in my crawl space, and I'm going to take you inside and show you what the units look like. One of the things I love about my new heat pump system is that it was not very invasive in the home. You can see I was able to keep a lot of the original ducting to the house, and one of the reasons my wife and I fell in love with this house and bought it is because of its old character. It's so hard to find character like this with so many new builds. So when we approached Scott Watts and they told us that we could keep a lot of the old character with their ducted systems, we were happy because it means not having to replace trim and just keeping a lot of the old features of the house, which make it so special. Welcome to my attic. There's 3 things I want to show up here. First and foremost is my new air handler. This heats the air, cools the air for my entire second story where all my bedrooms and 2 bathrooms are. It also has a HEPA air filter, which is awesome on any smoky days, or really if there's anything in the air, the filter keeps it out. What was really important about doing the new HVAC work with some other insulation installation was that we did it all at the same time. So right now I'm sitting on plywood, which is on top of brand new insulation. My installer Gottwatts coordinated all of the new insulation work with their ducting to make the process as seamless as possible. If I were to decide retroactively to have replaced the insulation, Gottwatts would have had to have come back, ripped up a lot of the solar runs and a lot of their ducting to make it work. So by doing it at the same time, it just made it super easy. I also have an attic fan up here, which is controlled by a temperature rheostat. So whenever the temperature in my attic hits 100 degrees, the fan kicks on and sucks in cold air from outside to replace the super hot air in here. I don't think you can see it, but I'm sweating. It's so hot right now. And what that does is it minimizes the temperature differential between my attic and the bedrooms below, and it just makes the insulation way more effective at keeping those rooms cool in the summer. So I'm standing right now below where I was just sitting in the attic, and you can see the ducting for the heat pumps coming out of my ceiling. Very low profile, and actually very quiet when you're in the room. Unlike a forced air system, when it's on, you can't even hear it. You just feel the conditioned air coming into the room. Very nice. So one of the things I noticed when I moved into this house is that the windows were drafty. So there was a lot of hot air, cold air coming into the room from outside, and it was also pretty noisy. So one of the easiest ways to achieve energy efficiency in the house was to actually replace some of the windows. On the front of the house, that was difficult because we have these beautiful windows that used to be here that were built in 1915, and we really wanted to maintain the character of the house. So we found a custom window builder who replaced the old single pane glass with a special plastic laminate. So there's glass, there's plastic, and there's more glass. And what that does is it really helps maintain the conditioned air in the house, but also because they're new windows, there's fewer gaps, so you don't have as much as that drafty air coming back and forth. And being on a busy street, this also cuts way back on noise pollution. But overall, it just makes for a really comfortable room. So while we were electrifying the house, we tried to get rid of as many gas appliances as we could, which included replacing the old gas dryer with an electric dryer. When I renovated my basement, I found 2 irrigation analog controllers hidden in various crawl spaces. So I replaced those 2 analog controllers with a single digital controller, which is really nice because it's connected to the internet and knows, hey, if it's going to rain an inch this week, let's cut back on the watering or turn it off completely. So it's really, I get to set it and forget it. Don't have to worry about how much it waters the yard. I know it's going to be water minimal. So you've seen my home, you've seen my systems, and now I want to show you the apps I use to control those systems. The first is my Enphase Enlighten app. It controls my solar system and my battery backup. I love this app because when I open it up, it shows me real-time how I'm using power, if it's coming from the grid, if it's coming from my solar system, if it's coming from my battery, and also it shows me just general energy use. So as I open my app during the day, I can see, hey, I'm using a lot of power at 12:30 in the afternoon. I wonder why. It lets me go through my house and really understand what the major energy users are, and overall it helps me be a more efficient energy user. And really, most importantly, it's going to tell me if my house ever gets kicked off the grid. That way I know I've kicked to battery backup mode, and I can turn off the lights so that I can keep power reserved for my sump pump. The next app I love using is my Beehive app. It controls my smart irrigation system. So my house has about 6 zones I irrigate. I go into this app, say what days I want to water, for how long each day, and the app takes care of the rest. Like I said, it's connected to the internet, so it knows if it's going to rain. The app shoots me an alert and says, hey, rain's forecast in the next 24 hours, we're not going to water today, which is super helpful for me while I plan how I want to irrigate my backyard. The last app I have is my Kumo Cloud App. It controls the ducted HVAC system that Gottwatts installs. So it's very simple. I can go in and set, hey, this is when I want my heat or my cooling to turn on. This is the general temperature range I want to maintain. And it really allows me to be energy efficient because if I know, hey, during the week my family's out of the house, we just maintain the house at a more economical temperature and then recondition rooms when we get home in the evening. And it's all super simple. I like using the 3 apps. It's really not a hassle. They're each designed well for what they do, and I keep them all in one file on my iPhone, which I call House. So I go to House and just control those apps from one spot. Well, thanks again for letting me show my home. I'm really excited to show you how all of these electrification processes I did at the same time really came together. I really want to advocate for that. It made the whole process so much simpler, especially with Watts coordinating all sorts of different subcontractors. And what was really amazing, which I didn't touch on earlier, is that Watts also processed an energy efficiency rebate for them. I did no paperwork. Watts just sent me a form which I signed, and a couple months later I got a check for 4 figures in the mail, which was absolutely amazing. So again, thanks for coming to my house, and good luck on your electrification journey.
Working with Rick and Adrian on their project was kind of a dream for us, in that it allowed us to really integrate all 3 divisions of Watts in bringing both their solar and electrification goals to reality. And by upgrading the HVAC, we were able to get them the comfort and indoor air quality that they were looking for. And again, now seeing the final project come together now, it's working exactly as we would have liked. And again, it's kind of one of our prime projects to be able to integrate all of our services together like this.